And before we begin our session today, it's important to acknowledge our traditional lands. So at Royal Roads University, we acknowledge that the campus is located on the traditional lands of the Lekwungen-speaking peoples, the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations. And it is with gratitude that we live, learn, and work here where the past, present, and future of Indigenous and non-Indigenous students, staff, and faculty come together. So grateful to be on these lands today. And as we get going here, of course, the reason we're all here is so we can explore your career in business administration. My name's Ariana Kinjerski. I'm an education specialist with Royal Roads University. Delighted to be with you. We have many wonderful team members here with us today. We're super glad to have them. We have Lee Sentis, who's the BBA program head. Thank you so much for being here, Lee.
Yes, thank you very much for inviting me. It's wonderful to be here.
Absolutely. We also have our BBA students and alumni. We have Emily Mulrooney, Jared Matlock, and Naban Ayub with us today. We'll get more into their stories in just a few moments, but before we do that, we'll cover a little bit on the BBA program. Just in case you're not already familiar, we have a few program highlights, and at this point, I will pass it off to Lee.
Thanks very much, Ariana. Well, I'm not going to spend a whole chunk of time talking about the BBA and the program itself, because I do want to focus most of this session on hearing from past students and one student who's still current student. But you've probably been coming to this session or brought to this space because you're curious about what makes the BBA at Royal Roads different. There's lots of different really good BBA programs all over the place in all kinds of different universities. However, at Royal Roads, we've taken a different approach to the BBA, and it's a project-based learning approach. And what that means is that we're really doing as much as we can to build the skills that we think modern students need in order to go and do amazing things out in the workforce. And that goes beyond just, going and taking a marketing course or a communications course or an HR course, regurgitating the material from those courses and getting your degree afterwards and then being released out into the wild. At Royal Roads, we take a client-focused approach. So we actually go and find projects and clients who need something done within our local community. And it can be anything from, something that looks at governance within their organization and decision-making, or something that looks at how that business model is going to impact maybe the local community or the local environment, and even things like how to market different new products and what perhaps the risks could be for different styles of marketing. There's all kinds of different opportunities within that. But the point is that you aren't, instead of actually taking, just that marketing course or the HR course, within those projects, which are oftentimes about 4 to 5 weeks each, you're focused on something that the client has said, I need help with this. And I really want your students to get focused on this particular issue. And it's likely that that particular issue doesn't fall just within a box that's labeled marketing. It probably covers other areas: behavioral economics, communication, staffing, operations and production, all of that stuff. And so what we do is we curate the learning that you need as a student within that project setting in order for you to be able to best produce an output that the client is going to find useful and that we can see reflects that you understand the material. This is really, really different from anything that happens in other BBA programs in other universities, which again, those programs are great, but ours really is special. And it sets itself apart by being project-based. So across the 4 terms and the 16 months of the degree, you can expect to be engaged in probably about a dozen, maybe a little bit more, of different projects. Each one of these are going to be team-focused, team-based. You're going to be working with a client, and you're going to be helping address an issue that that client has come to us and said, this is important to us. So maybe we could go to the next slide and see what's on there. So the main thing that is interesting, and I just actually had a conversation with someone who is an employer just this morning, and also is knowledgeable. She's taught in this project-based learning in the BBA. And she said one of the things that really sets this apart from anything else that she is aware of in her community, and she's actually in Quebec, is that this has the best chance of actually setting students up for being employment ready once they graduate. A lot of our focus is really setting you up or teaching you the skills that you need in order to be like a junior consultant, because that's basically what you're operating as for all of those different projects, right? You're not just doing pure research. You're also coming up with recommendations based on what you've found, discussions you've had with the community, discussions you've had with the client, and anything else that you've learned within that space. And that ability to think in a creative and dynamic way is something that employers are really looking for. They want to know that the new employees that they're bringing in are able to handle complex issues and are able to pull on a variety of skill sets in order to address whatever the challenge is that's put in front of them. So again, we do have some webinars that have already go into, more in depth into all the ways that the BBA actually works. But I do want to take this opportunity to open up the discussion now to the other folks that we have here. We've got two people who are from past cohorts. So we've got Emily and also Jared. And we've got Naband, who is he's just about to go into term 4, which is the very final term of the BBA. So I'm hoping he's excited too, and also trying to think about how am I going to be applying this work once he gets released out into the wild. But what I'm going to do is just open up with an initial question, and I'm not directing this at anyone in particular. It's just anyone who wants to jump in. And that question is to describe your journey post BBA, or Naban, if you're still in the program, what are you hoping to do now that that final term is in sight? So what was it like once you graduated, and what do you think you might be able to do in the next few months once you've graduated? So open to Emily, Jared, Naban, whoever wants to jump in first, go for it.
Sure, I can start it off. So I think initially I was drawn to Royal Roads because it seemed like a place where no idea was too big, and it was encouraged to work with a team on those big ideas. And I think that really inspired me to choose this university and jump right into the project-based learning because it seemed like just a really applicable way to learn business, especially because you end up focusing on sort of all the facets of business within these projects, similar to what Lee spoke to. So that kind of gives you, honestly, a little bit of room to fail. You go into some of these projects and maybe the final presentation didn't come out exactly like you wanted it. But the good thing is you've got 11 more tries or so to hone those skills and produce even a better product or presentation. So I think that was a lot more, it gave you more space to learn rather than, you fail on a test and all of a sudden your GPA is tanked. And this was a lot more applicable to what you have to do in everyday business, especially now that I've left. I've started another business. So with a couple of my fellow teammates from the cohort. So that's really exciting to meet people and realize kind of your own visions once you leave the program because you feel like you have the skills to do so.
Could you take just a few seconds just to explain what it is that your startup does?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess I'll jump back to the capstone. That is what my completion option for the program, the one I chose was capstone. So I ended up doing research on using drones and other UAVs to detect wildfires earlier. So I ended up speaking with some industry professionals, which I'd say the program set me up to do that. You're less afraid to make those cold calls, and you feel more qualified to speak with industry professionals, I'd say. And so basically through that kind of capstone process, I was able to determine that there is definitely a need to involve UAVs in the forest fighting and forest fire detection industry. So basically what we're doing is starting out with kind of some of the simpler, what they call visual line of sight operations. So that's photography, videography, a little bit of elevation modeling using drones. That's kind of our first phase. And then in the kind of background, we're working on a prototype to actually detect fires and send the fire location in real time. So this is kind of basically to add a little bit of robustness to the forest fire detection kind of toolkit that's already in play.
Thanks.
So yeah, we're focused on kind of a phased approach, and eventually fully autonomous units would be the goal.
Awesome. Wow, fantastic. That's a, that would be my hope for most students. Not every student is going to do a startup, but being able to go into something that they're passionate about and that they're really interested about, I think it's fantastic. Emily,
Absolutely.
Navan, what about yourselves? How would you describe your post BBA journey or getting near to the end of post?
I would say, I mean, like you said, it's doing something that you're passionate about, and that was my goal leaving the program. But while I was in the program, I was very passionate about the program. So I I had a bit of a up and down journey leading up to joining the BBA program.
Mhm.
That's with both school and work because of some health challenges. And the Royal Roads flexible admission allowed me to get into the BBA program so that I could finish my business degree. But the main reason why I joined the BBA program was because it was a different style of learning.
Mm.
And the other style, where you just study for an exam and you memorize material, that didn't work for me. There's all these new information now of how you need to integrate material in different ways, and it just made a lot more sense. And so I had a really great experience while I was in the program, and now I'm here working as the program associate supporting the program, so supporting other students to move through the program as well.
So
um,
Emily has basically come home. That's basically.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so it's been a full circle journey, and it's been a great experience to support other people to move through what I just did, and to accomplish well, and now see other students accomplishing great things. Yeah, it's that's that was my journey.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Naban, I know that you're just approaching the start of term four, which actually starts in about a week or so. So
Yeah,
your mind is probably focused on what's my first project of term four going to be and who's my team and all the rest of it. But I'm curious, where are you at right now? What's your feeling? And where do you think this is going to lead to after graduation? You might not know yet.
I'm I'm still uncertain, but what I can say is that well, I've had a lot more experience in this program than the last program I did, which was about, I'd say, I think it's 5 years ago now. I completed, just like you said, did a re- just a marketing course from in Ontario, and then it's just basically regurgitating what the professor said into a paper and getting a mark. I didn't have any experience in that. I tried applying for jobs, no luck because there was no experience on paper, right? Or with
Yeah.
this one, what I can say is that I've been getting some attention with the stuff I've been putting up on LinkedIn, as you know, like you've mentioned it a couple times, and like the whole class knows by now.
Mhm.
Uh, I've been getting some attention in LinkedIn and at work with the stuff I've been doing. Like my employer also has asked me if I'm interested in, heading on some projects that they're looking into. So this program is the project-based learning has set me up
Yeah.
nicely.
I remember, Naban, one conversation I had with you where you were really excited with the project that you were working on at that time and how you were able to actually apply it right away
Yeah,
within your workspace.
yeah, it was the supply chain map we did for Solid.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still they're still working it through. I haven't got the green light for it yet.
Hmm.
Yeah, but basically what we did was that we did a whole supply chain map for solids each and individual raw materials. And while my employer was interested in it, and they've asked me to do the same thing, but for our suppliers, our like product suppliers at the company. But it's still in the pipeline,
Yeah.
but it's still going on. They have to get it through some more board members.
Yeah, that happens. That's the way it goes.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, I think the thing that really struck me was that you saw the connection between the what you were actually learning and where you could apply it within your workspace. So yeah, that was great. Awesome. Thank you very much, Naban. So the next question, I mean, for two of you at least, you have left the workspace, and I'm curious what surprised you when you started to go look for work? Like, was it what were there elements that that you realized, oh, that's why we were learning that within the project? Or yeah, curious what surprised you when you went to actually leave and go find those big adult jobs?
Um, I think probably for me, the biggest thing was um, before Royal Roads, I didn't focus on kind of the why of, you know, the why behind everything.
Yeah.
I started out as a freelance videographer before I arrived at Royal Roads, and it was kind of, I don't know, to make cool videos. It wasn't necessarily, to develop a storyline that answered sort of the why of why this, company is marketing this certain aspect of their business. And then that why really translated into sort of like um, the startup I'm doing now. It's there has to be a good why behind why you're doing things. There can't
Mhm.
be just, I want to make, this amount of money, or I want to meet these kind of people. There's got to be a solid why that really kind of drives your passion for why you're doing it.
Yeah.
So I think that was the biggest thing. It was just almost a rewiring of how I looked at problems and business in general,
Nice.
to the point where you can identify some of these, kind of critical issues within the world and then narrow it down enough that you can make a difference, individually or as a team. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. And that's great because the full name of the program is actually, the BBA in Innovation and Sustainability. So the one of the things I should have mentioned too is that the clients that we select, they aren't just clients that are looking to make more money. um, Money is important and economics is important and financial growth of organizations is also important. And yet we're living in a time when we've got social, environmental challenges, business being the main driver of much economic activity. It sits in a perfect place in order to help address a lot of those issues. So that's a important determinant when we go to actually take a look at clients. So Emily, I'm curious, what about you? When you left, what has surprised you, and have you had similar takeaways?
The first thing that came to mind was going on LinkedIn and applying for a job where I thought, oh, I feel like I'd be perfect for this. This looks great. And then seeing 250 other people have applied to this job and going like, oh my God,
Yeah.
how am I going to get this job? And then realizing like my biggest asset in applying for jobs and getting interviews turned out to be the connections I had.
Yeah.
And a lot of the connections that I called on were people who we had worked with in the program. And one client that we actually had a really great experience working with me, and he put out my resume on his Slack channel that he has with other CEOs in Victoria. And I got interviews from that, and they went really well. I didn't align with some of the businesses in terms of like what I wanted to accomplish, but it was a really amazing way to just, realize like, okay, I have all these resources now because I have these connections that I made in the program, but then also outside of the program. And so I think my biggest lesson and my biggest surprise was just realizing the importance of your network and nurturing your network. And yeah, people want to know what you can do. And so having somebody who can vouch for you, who's witnessed your work, who's seen your work, or having work that you can show people, um, really gets you a long way.
Yeah.
There were also other interviews I had with people who asked to see my work, and I showed them things I did in the program. And I had this great portfolio, and that got me really far compared to like a lot of the LinkedIn things that I did, where I just applied for jobs through LinkedIn. I didn't get a lot of responses. And so, yeah, I would say the biggest asset is your connections that you have. And
Nice. Yeah.
then, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and that's so important, because when you're in those job interview situations, it's one thing to be able to talk in theory about what you know about stuff. And it's another thing to say, I helped an organization just determine ABC. And, here's the flow chart that we made as a result of that project. And it's a real client. It's not a case study that is, just been developed in order to help you with the material. It actually exists. And that's really important. Navan, I know that you've done, I've called you out a few times, or at least once, in terms of your LinkedIn posts, because you've made a fantastic connection between the work that you're doing, the schoolwork that you're doing, right, for your degree, and also being able to leverage that in order to make yourself stand out from all those thousands of other people who are all going to be applying for the same job. So I'm curious what was your rationale for why you did that, and how you are leveraging the learning from the program. Oh, and your mic's up. There you go.
Yeah, no, yeah. Well, the biggest rationale was not to forget what I did. So it
Yeah,
was just as a notepad or like a memory board for somewhere I could show people what I did and some of the results or the work that I did. And the last one I posted, I was really cool to see that one of the stakeholders with our climate action project, I think it was Shift Collaborative or Focal. I think it was Shift Collaborative. They reposted that my post. It was really good to see that.
nice.
Um, Apart from that, yeah, it's just that was my like biggest thing.
Yeah, nice. And I mean, just from my own personal experience, obviously we didn't really have the internet when I was leaving from my undergraduate. We certainly didn't have social media, but we still had resumes. It was very difficult to know how to translate the work that I had done within my own undergrad experience and make that mean anything to an employer on my resume. That was a real challenge. So one of the things that when you are all emphasizing that, my guess is that you are talking about the BBA program or talking about your education. And I'm curious, what are the elements that you emphasize? Because those will probably also be the things that really have stood out for you. I know you touched on some of them already, but I'm curious if there's anything else that really stands out for you.
One thing that that really stands out for me is the small class sizes. So you're with a cohort for the entire duration of your degree completion, and that allows you to build much more intimate relationships with your classmates and as well with your professors and your instructors. And I've really felt that. Gone into business with two of my classmates, and also reached back out to professors for advice. So it's been really instrumental in my ability to even do this startup, is to find those right people and know them at honestly a really personal level. So you kind of know their quirks and their you know their ability.
Yeah.
So I think small class sizes and the ability to get to know everyone, including your instructors, is really instrumental.
Nice. Yeah. I remember some of my undergrad classes, they were like in the hundreds, whereas ours
Yep.
are, yeah, I think your cohort had about 15 or so people.
Yep.
We've got Naban, I think you're at about like 22, 23. So just to give other people who are listening an idea of size, and Emily's, yours might have been a little bit bigger, but you're not, as a student, you're not lost in a sea of faces and you're not just a number, right? So that I think both Jared and Emily have really brought up that idea of networking and using that network or post BBA. But Emily, I'm curious from you too. Like, what is it that you talk about because you describe the program all the time in your current role. So, what stands out for you? What do you emphasize?
Um, oh, well, I mean, I talked about the connections already. And yeah, I think the variety of projects helped build confidence. I think I felt, I just assumed that there were certain things that I wouldn't do well at. But we're well supported in the program and we do a variety of different things. The other thing that stands out is teamwork.
Hmm.
So a lot of the projects are group work, and you're not just like thrown in with a group of people and then you're on your own. Like there's a lot of support to teach people how to work with groups, and I found that to be really helpful, um, because you don't really know what you can learn from someone else until you take the time to create that space and listen. And I'm someone who always thinks that I'm right, like a lot of people, I'm sure.
Me too.
And
Yeah.
yeah. And so it was a really um, neat experience to sit down with people where you have this one idea going into the meeting and realize, oh, okay, I really needed to hear what was just said to me. And all the things that you need to develop about yourself kind of get mirrored to you in group work.
Yeah.
So I think that was a really special experience. And there's opportunities for leadership within a group,
Yeah.
shared leadership, and then there's opportunity to try tasks that you might not be confident with and then get support from your other team members. So I really enjoyed the group work aspect of it.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, well put. Yeah, the teamwork element is definitely a big focus within the program. And, I'm not going to lie and say that that's always easy. But you know what? When you leave your undergrad and you go out into the workforce, there are very few jobs where you're not working in collaboration with someone else. And those skills, I think in a regular program, you might be able to have like a couple of team experiences across your entire degree. And so you don't really get a chance to flex those muscles. So there's a lot of learning that happens. I mean, curiously, I see students come in September and I see them leave like in January the next year, and they've just matured, like, and I think a lot of that actually is the self-regulation, the accountability that comes into that team environment. So Naban, I'm curious, when your relatives ask you, hey, what's this? You're off in Canada doing this cool program. What's it all about? Why'd you go there and not somewhere local? What do you emphasize? What do you tell
Mm, I mean, well, I tell them well, I don't tell them a lot, but my parents have been like showing my work to them, like
them?
showing what I've
Cool.
been doing over here. Especially the last project we did with the the actual challenge, the venture challenge, where we got on radio. That was like uh, they were surprised the amount of messages I got after that radio interview, like relatives from back home sitting up, like it's early, so like I would say like 5 o'clock in the morning over there. They just woke up and listened to what I've been speaking about. It's just, yeah, they understand by now. They don't they know that by now you don't get this sort of experience studying back home.
Yeah,
There, I can say that there's not any universities or colleges that do this kind of project-based learning.
yeah,
It's that aspect of it, like working, like you're getting out in the field. Even when you're studying, you're networking with people, you're talking with maybe potential employers in the future, and getting those connections, getting your name known out there. It's
yeah.
just that aspect. Like I don't have to do anything. I think it's like my parents have been doing. They've been
Been
doing
doing your
everything.
networking.
Yeah, they've been actually doing my networking. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, just to give listeners a little bit of context. So the last project that Naban is talking about, the students are tasked with within about probably 6 weeks, creating an online business that makes money, and then they're going to gift that working organization to a nonprofit or to a charity. And as part of that, Naban and a few other teams within your cohort, I don't know how you guys did it, but you got more media coverage than we've ever had before. I think we had like three different teams out of the five get
Yeah.
everything from being on local TV to yourself getting on the CBC on the radio and being interviewed, and someone else quoted in one of our newspapers. So it was really cool to get that kind of, I don't know, that kind of coverage. And I would also guess, but I'm curious, to what degree has that influenced your own self-confidence, Naban?
Um, Pretty much a lot.
Hmm.
Like, getting out there, speaking in public. I've never spoken in radio before, and it's just was 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 a much needed experience, I'd say. It's
Yeah,
like, yeah, you're not just speaking one time. You're just, I've pretty much I think I've chatted with we had like I think Steve had we were talking with Tess from Tech News. So you're speaking with these people, learning how they work, and like networking with them. It's just it's a really, I would say, an experience. Once you go out of this program, you know how to talk to these people, you know how to connect. I didn't say no, but you have an idea of how to get connected with these people, like
yeah.
people outside, like employers. Like, uh, I'm sorry, I'm losing I'm almost getting sleepy right now, so I'm
Yeah,
losing my words.
it's okay. Just for everyone's context, Naban's in Saudi Arabia right now, so he's joining us pretty late. So we've been thanking him for for doing that. So thanks very much, Naban. Yeah, I think it's one of our other hopes too, is because you're not just sitting in a classroom listening to the instructor or the professor, and you're just regurgitating back and being really quiet. Oftentimes you're given a lot of space within that school day that to be working on the projects and the work. I'm curious from any of you, was that a surprise and a welcome surprise that was the type of environment that we utilize for project-based learning, where the emphasis isn't on lecturing, but the emphasis is on supporting you to get your work done.
I can speak to this. I really appreciated the flexibility. Every other learning environment I had been in, it felt like, there was a very rigid schedule and you were going to sit and you were going to listen, and I didn't do well with that. I did well enough, but I didn't feel like that was always time well spent. I liked going home and doing some of that learning online by myself at the pace that worked for me at the time that worked for me, and then spending my time during the day to work out with my team, what time works for you, and how does everybody work well, and creating a plan that actually made sense for all the very different human beings we were working with. So yeah, I really appreciated the flexibility. I think it was a way to actually customize the learning so that it made sense for me.
Nice. Yeah.
I think something that like I came into it and really kind of flourished in that environment of having that flexibility. Similar to Emily, I'm not so much for sitting and looking at a PowerPoint and then regurgitating that information on a test.
Yeah.
And I think I saw also people that were more used to that kind of environment, and sort of like they were thrown out into the ocean a little bit. But to watch them sort of swim was like really, really exciting within our teams and within our cohort. I think they adapted, and it was a skill that they ended up building. And I know myself, I ended up building better time management skills. And that was because of that, that flexibility.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, a lot of those, like if you go and talk to a lot of employers, one of the things that you may hear or you may see in news articles too is this concept of soft skills, that ability to I can regulate myself, I can manage my own time, I can hold myself accountable. Those are all things that that kind of naturally comes out of good teamwork. And yeah, and it's all stuff that we really emphasize. Emily, go for it.
Yeah, just speaking to that, as somebody who, I don't know that I had the best time management. I was capable of managing my time, but when Jared mentioned that, I thought, yeah, we learned project management pretty early on. And that was just two different or three different kinds of project management, actually, like a few different methods. And I found using those to just be such a helpful framework for making the projects efficient, having everybody know who was doing what. And that was one of my favorite things that I've learned. And I still use like a Kanban board
Yeah.
in my everyday work. So
Right. Okay. You're still using Agile. Good for you.
yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. And those are oftentimes the skills that are not necessarily recognized or noticed by students when they leave, right? Because we're trained to think in terms of the subject areas that we learned. And yet it's those soft skills which are particularly important to employers, including the ability to be trainable. That's really important. They don't want someone who just knows one way of doing something. They want to know that you've got that breadth. Very nice. So we're kind of coming into the end of the questions here, and I don't know, Ariana, whether there's also an opportunity to let some of our guests who are on the line also ask some questions at the end. Is that something? Okay. So those of you who are guests on here, if there are questions that are in your head, we'll open up the microphone space for you to ask those in just a few questions, or sorry, just a few seconds. But one of the things that I wanted to just lead off with for that final question is what advice you would have for those that are thinking of applying. Because there's a lot of choice out there, a lot of different programs. What would be your pitch as to why people should seriously consider the BBA at Royal Roads?
I would say that if you are a little less traditional in your style of like how you'd like to be educated, if you want to gain experience, you want to be challenged, this could be a good fit for you. And I've already talked about my own experience with not thriving in other educational environments. And I would say that this was an environment that I was challenged in, and I felt like I really rose. And I, yeah. So I would say that if you're non-traditional or you're looking for something different, then this might be a good
Nice.
opportunity.
Awesome. Jared, I saw your microphone come off too.
Yeah, I think very similar to what Emily's speaking to. It's just that non-traditional learning style that really it kind of forms you into this well-rounded kind of jack of all trades in the business sector, which is, I think, probably the most important thing moving into this kind of ever-changing, rapidly changing future that we're experiencing. So to kind of be adaptable and and also have that kind of toolkit that Railroads gives you is yeah, is everything.
Cool. Thank you very much. What about you, Naban? What what advice would you give to friends or anyone else who's asking you, should I sign up for the BBA at Royal Roads?
Oh, Emily and Jared had they've mentioned it all. Uh it's the kind of the program where you get like you said, you gain all those soft, not just knowledge, but those soft skills which you can translate into your workplace,
Mhm.
which might not be present at other courses. I cannot say for sure,
Yeah,
but I can say that those soft skills are really valuable.
yeah,
You
absolutely. Awesome. Thank you very much. And Emily, you've got your hand up.
Just one final thing to add. If you're sustainably minded, this is a
Yes.
good program to be in. And if you're not sustainably minded, then you might want to consider being open to it, because by the end, most students who move through this program have had a reality shift in
Yeah.
terms of, the future of business
Yeah.
and the way things are unfolding right now. So that's a key aspect of the program.
Great point.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
wasn't sustainably minded at all when I began this project, but it's getting there. You can see how a lot of it is happening at the workplace.
Yeah.
So good point there, Emily.
Yeah. Well, and you're not alone, Naban. I can think of a few students who have told me specifically, I came into this for a BBA in order to figure out how to make money. And then I realized that there's more
Yeah.
to making money. And you can make money and make a difference at the same time, and that's
Yes.
okay. So yeah, that's a really good point to end on. I'd like to open up the floor to any of our guests who are listening. Is there anything that you would like to ask these fine folk?
Oh,
Alan, go for it.
hi. Yeah. Thank you very much for everybody that shared your experiences and everyone and the background on the program. And especially for Devon on the other side of the world, staying up to talk and share. The it was expressed before, but I forgot what was, well, maybe I don't know, maybe I forgot the number, but what's the average class size and then like the average cohort size?
Yeah, so we've had 3 cohorts so far in this new project-based learning configuration of the BBA. I think the first year, Emily, I'm going to guess around 25 or so for your cohort. Yeah, 23. Yeah.
Or 30, I would say.
Oh, 30. Okay.
Yeah.
Jared, I think we had about 15 for yours. Naban, I think we're sitting at about 22. Although we also have exchange students that will come in for one term, so that the numbers fluctuate a little bit. But you're looking at something which is really manageable in terms of size, and it's so different than my experience of walking into Psych 101 on the first day, and there's 200 people in this huge auditorium. And everything is going to be multiple choice on an exam because that's all the instructors can handle, right? So there's none of that relationship building or being able to book time to sit down, have an hour-long conversation with the instructor, or just that really kind of hands-on guidance. That is just an integral part of the work that we do.
All right, great. Thank you so much.
No problem. Anybody else? Are there any other questions that are out there? Okay, well, that's not a problem. And I'm sure if you do have questions and you're listening to this as a recording, please get in contact with the program. We'd be happy to answer anything that isn't on the website. So the way I find stuff about the BBA, Royal Roads University, BBA in Google, that gets you where you need to go. And there's a lot of interesting links, webinars, interviews, that kind of stuff, all within that space too. But over to you, Ariana.
Thanks so much, Lee. Thank you so much to everybody for sharing your stories, for the participants for asking questions, all of the good things here. I'm just going to reshare my screen just so we can have a couple more slides here before we wrap up, because I know we're getting close to 1 p.m. here on the West Coast. Can everybody see the good screen there? Perfect. So a few key dates, folks, if you are thinking of applying to the BBA program. I wanted to mention first of all, if you are thinking that you really want to get into the program as soon as you can, there is an intake that's coming up on September 3rd, 2024. Obviously, the deadline for application has passed, but in certain cases we can accommodate. So if you are thinking about that, please do not hesitate to reach out. I'll just give you the contact information for how to get in touch in a moment here. If you are thinking a bit more into the future, for the next intake, it's looking at September 2nd, 2025, and the application deadline is sitting at June 2nd, 2025 for that. So if you are thinking of joining us in the program, for either of these, we would love to have you. So a few dates to just keep in mind here. And some services that are available to you. I should mention there's so much good stuff on the Royal Roads website, as Lee was mentioning on the program page as well. There's services that are available in terms of financial aid and award services. So things like loans, bursaries, scholarships, other awards, even things like emergency funding is all available. So you can check that out at royalroads.ca/admission/financial aid awards if you are looking at that, as well as enrollment services. I know we have Andrea on the line. Thank you so much to Andrea for putting some helpful links in the chat today. Enrollment services is really wonderful. You can get in touch with them at learn.more@royalroads.ca. Then there's a few numbers for local phone number and a toll-free for North America if you want to give them a call as well and chat. They can really help you narrow down your program options, answer any questions you have about your application, and also connect you with students and alumni like these fine folks on the line today from the program. And with that, folks, I will wrap us up here today. I want to thank everybody so much for tuning in. I want to thank Lee. It was wonderful facilitation today. Of course, Jarrett, Emily, Naban. Thank you so much to our participants. Thank you to Andrea from Enrollment Services. We really appreciate all of the wonderful good work you guys have done here today. So thank you again. And to folks on the recording, if you have any questions, please do be in touch with us. And this will all be in my follow-up email as well. So thank you so much with that, folks, and have a wonderful day. We hope to see you in the program. Take good care.